Rod, thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate your time. It's good to see you.
Oh, and you, thank you very much for asking me on.
So I first came across your book. Would you call it a book? What would you call it? That's a good first.
So I came up with the phrase a puzzle novel. I thought that was the best way of doing it, although you then immediately have to explain what that means. So
No, I think, and now embarrassingly, after looking at the front cover and asking you to confirm that, I see that it says quite clearly a puzzle novel on the front. So I came across your puzzle novel on Instagram a while back and got chatting to you, and you kindly sent us a copy to try it out. And I was immediately intrigued by the concept. And the first thing I wanted to say is it's one of those things where I don't want it to end. So as we're talking now, we've got 2 questions left to do out of, 30 questions. And we did the first chapter and enjoyed it so much. I then was like, I didn't want to start the next chapter because I knew I'd be then 1 chapter closer to the ending because it's so intriguing. I'm keen to know, before I get onto the specifics of the story here, what made you first want to do a puzzle novel? What was the inspiration behind it?
So I've been just one of these things. I've written a couple of other books in my spare time, and I had the outlines of the plot for this story has been in my head for ages. So originally it was going to be a thriller, just a straight up book, and then just did a couple of escape rooms. I've always been into secret codes and secret messages and things. And this idea started bubbling away in the back of my head about, could you tell a proper thriller plot story, but the story unfolded by the reader, for want of a better phrase, solving puzzles, so as if they were the investigator. So, everybody loves police procedural, everybody loves, CSI or the investigation bits of thriller shows on TV or films. And was there a way of almost doing a thriller, a book, a classic airport thriller, if you like, a conspiracy thriller potboiler? Could you do that, but make the reader feel more invested in it than just reading it, actually playing an active role? And yeah, so I've been monkeying about with this idea probably it's been itching away in the back of my head for probably nearly a decade.
Wow.
And then just over the last couple of years, just spent a bit more time doing it. And then, just after Christmas this year, decided, you know what, I'm going to stop thinking about this and talking about it, and I'm going to actually do it. And so it was nearly finished by the time that lockdown hit. And then that then gave me a few weeks of sort of tweaking and tightening and trying to make it polished and then get it out and see what people thought of it. So yeah.
Well, good on you, because it is exactly what you set out to do. It is one of those, like, the reason why I don't want to finish it, because I don't want it to be over, because the story is so intriguing. So on the story, and I really want this to be as spoiler free as possible, because anybody who is watching this should absolutely just go to Amazon right now and buy this, because it's just brilliant. So this is going to be spoiler free as much as I possibly can. I need to ask some questions that relate to the story. But is the story, and try and make your answer as spoiler free as possible as well, is it largely based on true stuff with a few added bits of story added in? Is that how it works? Because it feels so real.
So I've been interested in the particular period of history that it talks about for a long time. I've been fascinated by conspiracy theories. Now, they've kind of got a bad name nowadays, but I've always been fascinated with not just the theories themselves, but also the way people talk about them and what makes people believe them and what makes other people doubt them, and then looking into the sort of nuggets of what were the nuggets of historical truth in some of them that then prompted these, sometimes completely crazy constructions around them. Yeah. And so I had read and researched quite a bit of this period. And there are some fascinating things in there that are 100% absolutely true, that read like elements of a ridiculous fictional thriller.
Right.
And so it had always been in my head that those would make nice little kernels of truth within a thriller plot. And then as I got to the stage of putting it together in this format, where actually doing research and potentially looking online into some of these elements, you would effectively stumble across these nuggets of history that weren't particularly well known but are absolute fact.
Yeah.
To me, it felt like a really nice way of hopefully creating a little blurring of fiction and reality. Okay. So if you've stumbled on and you read this stuff that's on an authoritative website that you absolutely trust about one bit of it that's really true, it makes the rest of it suddenly seem, hopefully, more terrifyingly plausible.
Well, it does, because that's my question. It all feels true, and so I'm sitting here going through this experience, trying to piece the bits that are historical fact and the bits that you've added to the story, and it's really hard to tell the difference.
Well, even I was really keen as well that even the fictional bits that went in, they are based on historical truth. So it might not be exactly the organization or exactly the sorry, as you say, difficult without spoilers. But it might not be exactly how it happened, but what I've tried to do is put in things that feel worryingly plausible.
Yeah, and it does. It really does ring true. So I feel I need to just talk about the conspiracy theory bit now, because I kind of like conspiracy theories for like a 5-minute chat over a pint, but then I kind of quickly get bored of them, because yes, we did land on the moon, and no, the Earth isn't flat. Yeah. So I just want to rest anyone's mind now to think this is not some ridiculous conspiracy theory at all. This is much more a conspiracy theory around some hard evidence, where probably it's actually more a theory where there are conspiracies within it. I think that's a better way to phrase it. I don't want to put anyone off, because this, like I said, it does feel like you're going through a really real story, and there's no part in this where you don't feel like it is accurate. So again, without spoilers, and this is just going to irritate people watching, but the bit in Ireland, is that all true? Did that all actually happen in real history?
So the man living in Ireland, yes, absolutely.
I mean, that is insane.
And the rest of it, no.
Because I mean, like I said, this is drive people crazy. But the point is, go get the book, and then you'll find out the story. But the stuff that happened in recent, British history. Oh my goodness, fascinating. So congratulations on creating a very intriguing story. So just to give it a bit of context for people, the book, the novel, is set in 5 chapters. Each one, you're not supposed to progress to the next until you've answered all the questions on each of them. And it's not questions in the book. You are tasked as the role of a special, elite, extraordinary investigator from an elite system of Her Majesty's government. And there is a website that you log on to, and it all feels very official. I like the jokes you've done, Rod, where it's like, we're all working from home now, and we can, it feels like you actually have signed on to this job, and you're doing it at home playing a game. But it's saying, no, you're not playing a game. You're at home because, there's some funny characters here. And it's so well done. And it starts off feeling like a bit of a game, but it very quickly turns into, no, actually, we've got to get this crime solved. There's some serious stuff going. And, there's emails that you have to read. There's puzzles you have to solve. There's all sorts of different codes and a bunch of other things that you need to crack to get the story moving from A to B. And it just feels so absorbing. And I'm interested from your perspective how you can relate to that, because you created this stuff, right? I mean, have you ever sat and seen anyone go through this experience fresh? Have you ever really experienced it from my point of view?
No. So I came up with it, and then I got half dozen friends who remained friends, which is nice, to test it. And they were people who are into the same sort of books as I am, or into the same sort of things. People that I played board games with and things like that. And I kind of figured if they're into this, then it might work. And so they gave me brilliant feedback on the early drafts, which prompted quite a bit of rewriting and reworking, redesigning from things like, actually this mechanic was too complicated, or actually a couple of them where it was just far too easy. They just went, well, that wasn't really a puzzle. I just looked at it and knew what it was. But even down to really useful things like that font was too small and too difficult to read. Which, okay, I wear glasses, but I hadn't even thought of that. And so just really useful feedback I got from them. So it's probably went through about three iterations, I think, before I felt comfortable publishing it. And so yeah, so although I've not sat and watched someone do it, I got really detailed feedback from some testers, which really helped, I think, hone it and polish it, and maybe knock. There were a couple of puzzles that some, not everyone, but a couple of the 6 found really difficult and said they got stuck. So it made me go, okay, what is it about that one in particular that not make it easier, but maybe make the hints better?
Yeah, okay.
So, because it was really important to me. The last thing I want is people to go through this book and just get stuck. So there's 3 levels of hints. The first is a gentle sort of nudge, gradually escalating to the sort of 3rd level is hopefully a fairly explicit pointer, because you don't want anyone to get stuck.
No.
And then what I've done, actually, because I did get someone email me that said on one question that they'd, even after looking at the 3rd hint, they'd sort of got stuck. And so what I've done is I've gone in and I've updated the book again. So now, sorry, it won't be in the version you've got, but in the versions that have been going out for the last sort of 3 or 4 weeks, there's a very clear message that if you are, even after looking at the 3 hints, if you're stuck, just email me and I, we'll send you out a sort of pointer for do that. Because it's really important to me that the puzzles are enjoyable rather than a trial to get through. So
yeah. Well, I'd say that you've absolutely achieved that, because talking about the playtesters that you got with this, people who are into the same sort of thing, I'm not really into this sort of thing because I'm bad at it. I enjoy it. Like, I've played the exit games and the unlock games, and I enjoy it, but I'm terrible at it. I don't have the patience for it. I get frustrated if I don't instantly see it. I get annoyed. I don't have a very good code cracking brain, for sure. I think if I was around this sort of era, I would be the guy making the teas, not cracking the ciphers. But there's been no point in this where I felt frustrated. I've just felt challenged. And my wife has done a lot more of the solutions than I have, because she's better at it. But I've still felt I've played a part. And we've had to use the hints at the back a couple of times, but it's never, ever... It doesn't explicitly give it to you. It's not like, oh, here it is, so move on. It just kind of gives you a little bit more of a hint, and then you get it, and you still have that, yeah, there it is moment. And that happens so many times in this book. And like I said earlier, coupled with the fact that the story you're solving is so good. So this is the next question I wanted to say, because I would imagine that this would appeal to people who like the games, like I just mentioned, the unlocks and the exits of this world. And I love those. I've got quite a few of those and have played them and really enjoy them. But if you asked me to tell you the story of any of the ones I played, couldn't really remember it. First of all, the story isn't great, and then secondly, that's not intrinsic to the experience. It feels more just a series of puzzles that you're trying to solve. This is a series of puzzles that you're trying to solve to evolve a story, which is fascinating, and like we've talked about, largely based on historical fact, which makes it even more intriguing that this stuff happened. So I feel like, in that sense, it's kind of a bit of a one-off, and I'm interested in your thoughts. Have you played unlocks and exits? Are they games?
Yeah, so I've done a few of those, and there's there are other narrative puzzle books that there have been a few of them. I have bought a lot of them, as you would imagine, because I was working on this. And
Are they based on historical things like yours?
Some of them have, but this was my kind of thing, that all of them felt, with the greatest of respect to them, because I actually enjoyed doing them, but the narrative element of them for me wasn't really there. They were more, it was more, there was a theme, and the puzzles were then within that theme.
Yeah.
But the idea of an unfolding narrative, that rather than it being a word by word story being revealed by solving a puzzle that gave you the next word in the sentence that told the story, that's fine. I enjoyed doing those kind of books. What I wanted was much more of a genuine kind of plot, a sequence of events that you sort of discovered unfolding before you, which was very different from just working out what the next word in a sentence was going to be.
Sure. And that feels quite unique. Have the ones that you've done, do any of them give you that experience? Because I haven't had that experience before.
Not really. And I'd not been frustrated, that's not the right word, because I'd enjoyed doing them. I just felt whilst there was a theme, the narrative wasn't there. And so what I really wanted to do was this idea of it's a novel. Hopefully it does feel like a thriller novel. It just is told in a different way.
Definitely. And the next thing I want to talk about is it is a novel, and it feels like a novel told in a narrative way, exactly what you just said, with puzzles that take you from piece to piece. And I'd imagine now that people listening to this will be thinking, okay, so it's just a book full of words. No, and I don't want to show too much because it will ruin it, but this is very early on. It's not a book full of words. It's pictures, it's cut-ins, it's different bits of stuff. Like, I really don't want to reveal too much, but you're not ever reading a bunch of words. Like, the most of the time you might be reading a bunch of words is perhaps when you're reading an email or a newspaper clipping like that. But there is no novel as such in here in the written form. The novel comes out as the story unfolds, as you unlock the puzzles, and it takes you through the journey. And again, without giving too many spoilers, this book is probably 50% of it. This thing takes you to many other places to find out what that story is, and it's just a really brilliant experience, I've got to say. So obviously, I guess you're good at breaking codes. You can guess what my next question is. I don't want this to end. So when it does eventually end, because everything has to end, when are you making another one? Because I want to buy that.
So I'm about halfway through the second case. So it's proving tricky though. So because I'm almost having to do it the other way around, because with the first one, I had the plot because I'd been thinking about trying to write it as a normal book. So I had the plot in my head. So with the first one, it was all about them trying to design puzzles or various other things that you will stumble upon that told the story. For the second one, I've now got a head full and a book full of ideas for puzzles and puzzle designs and code designs and things you could stumble upon that would tell a story that I didn't use in the first book because they didn't fit, or actually I had plenty of stuff, so I wanted to save something. Now it's about finding another story or building another story that hopefully has that mix of fiction and reality as well, because I'm keen to keep that, because everyone knows it's not real, but just that suspension of disbelief and more immersion in you being an investigator and you are solving a mystery. I'd love to be able to deliver that again, as you and some other people have been. You seem to have really enjoyed it, and that's fantastic. It's basically made my day, and it's it's really exciting to hear people sort of say the things that I was really hoping for. So it's really encouraging to hear that. So yeah, the challenge with the second one has been, actually I've got plenty of puzzles now, plenty of ways of revealing information, what I'm trying to do this time round is now build a story and build a plot that hopefully carries that same sense of realism and progression and kind of, I suppose, adventure is the word. So and yeah, so it's the other way around this time.
So you're halfway through that now, are you?
Yeah, about halfway, I think. So yeah. Okay. So and it's going to be different, but so obviously it's a different case, and you try not to fall into too many tropes and areas that have been covered already. So
okay, well, I'll be following with very much a lot of excitement to see when that comes out, because like I said, it's such a unique experience. And the thing about the unlocks and the exits, which are the closest reference I have to this, because I haven't really done a puzzle novel as such like this before, is you finish them and you maybe talk about one or two mechanics. Like there was a cool moment in one exit where I found, again, I don't want to give any spoilers for that, but I haven't said what exit it is, so it's not too bad. I found something hidden in the box. That was kind of cool. And I talked about that mechanic to a lot of people a lot. But I don't think I ever talked about the story. So like I said, it's the story here that's fascinating. And when I was playing it on Saturday night with my wife, she was saying, oh, my dad would love this. And I don't think her and I have ever played a game where she's ever said that. And she has said that because I think he would find the subject matter fascinating, the history fascinating, and the mechanics of it fascinating. So definitely going to be getting a copy of the book for him to see if we can get him into board games in this way. Because, I mean, it's not a board game, but it has those puzzle elements of board games that people like who played Unlocks and Exits will understand. So I can congratulate you on a really brilliant experience that I would encourage anybody to go check out. So you're on Amazon, right? That's the best place for people to go. Is that right? Great. So it's on Amazon, under £15. We've probably spent, and like I said, we've done 28 out of 30 questions. We've probably spent a good 5.5 hours at this point, because we really took our time and sort of explored the other stuff around this and look. I mean, the amount of things we've got into to try and check things out, you would laugh at us. But we've taken our time with it. We've done it over multiple evenings. It's done in 5 chapters, so I guess you could do it in 5 evenings. I think we've done it in 4. We maybe did 2 chapters at once, because we were just, it's like when you get to the end of an episode, you're like, what happens next? That's definitely the next one now. And it's just brilliant. Like, it's absolutely pound for pound worth, triple what you're pricing it at. So I would encourage everybody to go check this out. Extraordinary Investigations. Go find that on Amazon now. Rod, I really appreciate your time, not only in chatting to us today, but making this, because there's clearly a ton of effort that's got into it, and you can feel that when you're playing going through the story and feeling the experience. I congratulate you on it. It really is brilliant. So thank you so much for your time.
Well, no, thank you very much. That's very kind words, and I'm just delighted that you enjoyed it. It's great when you make something and then people seem to like it. So I'm absolutely delighted that you enjoyed it. Thank you very much for giving it a go.
Thank you, and I look forward to hearing about the next one.
All right, well, watch this space. I'm working on it.
All the best. Take care.
Cheers.